Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Gurudeva Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswāmī Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishta Mahabhagavat Śrīla Goksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Sorry, I spaced out. I was multitasking. Nityal Pavishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Śrīla Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimad Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Tadiya Shubha Avirbhav Titi Vyaspuja Mahotsav Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimad Śrīla Bhakti Vijñāna Bhāratī Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimad Śrīla Bhakti Dait Madhav Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Śrīla Prabhupada Parashad Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Padadasha Raghunath Sharda Goswāmī Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parashad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishya Pradati Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai. Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Shri Ramachandra Ki Jai. Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Ki Jai. Shri Ram Navami Titi Ki Jai. Titi Palankari Vakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Dasharath Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Kaushalya Kaikeyi Sumitra Mata Ki Jai. Shri Lakshman Bharat Shatrughna Ki Jai. Shri Hanuman Ki Jai. Bajrangbali Ki Jai. Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shinitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Go. So I am about half an hour later than our usual reading today, because I'm not sure if you saw, but I just started a shloka program and I did a live video for that just now. But yeah, just before I started the shloka program, I emailed Rup Manjari, Didi, and I asked her to share some katha about her Guru Maharaj. And so she sent me some links, and we'll be reading all of that. All this katha about Śrīla Bhakti Vijñāna Bhāratī Goswāmī Mahārāja, and then later on in the evening we'll read some Rama-kathā. So I'll share my screen. Yeah, thanks so much, Rup Manjari, for sharing this. Where is it? I opened up all the windows, I thought. Yes, there they are. Okay, so we'll begin with an article by inside a class by, this is the following glorification. Oh wait, let me make it reading view. Okay. The following glorification of Śrīla Tīrtha Goswāmī Mahārāja is a bhavanuvad of a lecture spoken on April 8, 2014, the anniversary of his appearance day, by Sri Srimad Bhakti Vijñāna Bhāratī Goswāmī Mahārāja at Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, Kolkata. The same has been printed in Vishuddha Chaitanya Vani, Volume 1 as well. Is everything okay? The connection's okay? Yeah, looks like it. Today is the appearance day of Sri Ramachandra, as well as that of my godbrother and the present Acharya of Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, Pujapad Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Mahārāja. It is extremely important for sincere sadhaks to observe the titis of Bhagavan and Vaishnavas, for it is an opportunity to glorify and remember their lotus feet. To neglect glorifying them on such days is certainly an offense. Śrīla Vrindavan Das Thakur has written, Jai Vaishnava bhajile achintya Krishna pai, She Vaishnava puja hoite boro ar nai. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Antyakanda 4.357. By serving the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, one attains the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, who is achintya, inconceivable. There is no greater sadhan than this. It is impossible to approach the Transcendental Lord through the means of the material senses. In the conditioned stage in which the jiva is bound by many material desires, he cannot think about achintya Krishna with his mind, nor can he see him with his eyes. He becomes qualified to attain the inconceivable Lord's mercy only after he takes complete shelter at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. Remembering this instruction, I will today serve Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja by remembering and glorifying him. His firm faith and the words of his Guru Varga. Whoa, I've never seen that picture before. Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja appeared in Gwalpada, Assam. He was the first member of his family to accept and follow the tenets of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He used to hear Harakatha very attentively and with great interest. He only performed kirtan of Shrotavani, that is, only what he had heard from our Paramaradhyatama Guru Maharaj, our most worshipful Guru Maharaj, Shri Srimad Bhakti Dayit Madhav Gosvāmī Maharaj, as well as senior authorities. In his Harikatha and general talks also, he would only repeat what he had heard from our Guru Maharaj and Guru Varga. This was one of his very special qualities. Because of this, most of our godbrothers would affectionately refer to him as a living tape recorder. Expert in Seva. Once, Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja, then Sri Krishna Vallabha Brahmachari, so Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja, Kanai Brahmachari, myself, then Narottama Brahmachari, and Shripad Madhavananda Vrajavasi, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, traveled to Sarbhog, Assam, for preaching. While we were there, it rained heavily, and we could not see the sun for 4 or 5 days. We were completely unable to go outside. During that time, Tīrtha Mahārāja cooked for all of us. Cooking was one of his areas of expertise. He was an expert cook, and everyone was very fond of his cooking. This was one of the qualities of Vaishnavas. They are expert in everything related to the service of the Vaishnavas. His light-hearted humor. Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja was also very rasik, which in Bengali means humorous. In Sarbhog, there was one young boy who visited us regularly and would always refer to Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja as Pet Mota Sadhu, or fat-bellied saint. Shripad Madhavananda Prabhu was chubbier than Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja, who was in fact not so chubby. And so we were quite surprised to hear the boy use this term for Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja, and not Shripad Madhavananda Prabhu. We could not understand why this young boy was repeatedly calling him this name, until one day I saw Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja alone with this boy. Maharajji was breathing in deeply to expand his belly, which he would then show to the boy. We then understood why the boy was calling Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja Pet Mota Sadhu. Although Pujapad Tīrtha Mahārāja was usually very grave and busily engaged in attentively hearing Harikatha and serving the Vaishnavas, he also had a sense of humor. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 2275 states, Krishna Bhakti Krishna Gun Sakali Sanchare. All the qualities of Krishna arise in his devotee. In this way, we can understand that although Vaishnavas are generally very grave, they also engage in humor because all the qualities of Krishna, who is the source of all transcendental mellows, including humor, are also present in his pure devotees. His humility and surrender. Pujapad Tīrtha Maharaj, as well as a number of other devotees, including myself, never desired to speak Harikatha in front of our Guru Varga, but were instead always eager to hear from them. There were other brahmacharis, however, who were very eager to speak Harikatha. They would approach Guru Maharaj and other Guru Varga to allow them to speak. I observed in my Guru Varga, particularly in our Guru Maharaj and Shishimad Bhakti Vichar Jajavar Gosvāmī Maharaj, a special quality. If anyone approached them and requested them for permission to speak Harikatha, they would never grant them permission. On the other hand, they would force those who were reluctant to speak publicly to speak Harikatha. Pujapad Tīrtha Maharaj was quite keen on hearing Harikatha, but was very reluctant to speak it. One day, Śrīla Jajavar Gosvāmī Maharaj announced, "Today, our Sriman Krishna Vallabha Brahmachari will speak Harikatha." Without protesting, Pujapad Tīrtha Maharaj spoke Harikatha on the order of his Guru Varga. I witnessed many examples of how he always remained under the anugatya of his Guru Varga, under the guidance of his Guru Varga. His surrender at the lotus feet of Guru Varga is unparalleled. Always seeking the advice of Vaishnavas. Another quality of Pujapad Tīrtha Maharaj is that whenever he possessed a doubt or question, he would always approach his Guru Varga and request the answer from them. A senior devotee of the Math once mentioned, "Although I have been staying in the Math for a long time, and though I have performed parikrama and many other spiritual activities, nothing has happened. Both my mind and life have not changed." I think this is Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Tripikram Goswami Maharaj who said this. I read in another class from Śrīla Bhakti Goswami Maharaj. I could be wrong, but I remember reading also Śrīla Tripikram Goswami Maharaj making the same point. Hearing this, Shri Krishna Vallabha Brahmachari and a number of other devotees became a bit disheartened. They questioned, what is the use of staying in the Math if such a senior Vaishnava feels he did not receive any benefit as a result of his Math Vas? To remedy their puzzlement, Shri Krishna Vallabha Brahmachari approached... No, I think that was a different story. Anyways, to remedy their puzzlement, Shri Krishna Vallabha Brahmachari approached Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who used to stay with our Guru Maharaj and Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. And he inquired, "Prabhu, a senior Vaishnava has commented that he feels he has not derived any benefits from his time residing in the Math. Some of the devotees are bothered to have heard this. Because they are disturbed, I am sincerely asking you for clarification. How can we reconcile such a statement?" Seeing his sincerity, Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu mentioned, "It is natural for humility to arise in a person in proportion to the amount he is associated with senior Vaishnavas and advanced in Bhakti. Thus, it is out of humility that a spiritually advanced devotee will express his lack of progress in Bhakti. In this way, we can reconcile statements of senior Vaishnavas." Upon hearing Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu's answer, Shri Krishna Vallabha Brahmachari understood everything very clearly. Kirtaniya Sada Hari. As time passed, Pujapad Tīrtha Maharaj remained always immersed in speaking Harikatha. Wherever he would go, it was impossible for him to stay without speaking Harikatha. Our affectionate relationship. Sometimes, Pujapad Tīrtha Maharaj would call me or meet with me to ask my advice on various matters. If someone else was present at that time, he would say, "Please excuse us, but we want to speak to each other privately." And this way we used to sit together and discuss many different things. The relationship between us is such that it is not easily understood by many people, but my heart says that our relationship has always been very sweet. From the very first day we met, we visited many different places together for preaching. We stayed together and served our Guru Maharaj together in many different ways. We have and have always had a deeply affectionate relationship. But because many persons observe only external appearances and neglect to consider the true heartfelt sentiments between us, they are unable to perceive this deep affection. Instead, they come to various mistaken conclusions about our relationship. Although I wish to continue glorifying my dear god brother Pujapad Tīrtha Maharaj, my health does not allow me to sit or speak for too long. Today, on the auspicious day of his divine appearance in this world, I pray at his lotus feet to forgive me for any offenses I may have committed against him, either knowingly or unknowingly. Jai Śrīla Bhakti Vallabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai. And for anyone who wants lots of different material to read about Śrīla Bhakti Vallabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja, there's this website, bbtirtha.org. You can go visit. But now we're going to read some katha about Sri Ramachandra Avatar by Śrīla Bhakti Vallabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja. I think Rup Manjari said this is from a book, a Dash Avatar book. I haven't seen that book yet, but yeah. Okay. Let me check if the connection's still working and everything. Looks like it. Okay, cool. So, Sri Ramachandra Avatar by Śrīla Bhakti Vallabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Lord Sri Ramachandra is the 7th avatar of the Dash Avatar. Among the 25 Leela avatars, Lord Ramachandra is the 20th avatar. This has been mentioned in the description of Matsya avatar. The second Purush avatar, Shri Garbhadakshay Vishnu, in the form of Pradyumna, is the original source of Matsya, Kurma, Ram, Nrsimha, and other Leela avatars. Srila Rupa Goswami in his book Laghu Bhagavatamrita defines Lord Ramachandra as the Paravasta, the perfect form. The Paravasta, perfect form. Rama Nrsimha Rama Krishneshu Sargunyam Paripuritam Paravastastute Tasya Dipad Utpanadipavat, from Padma Puran. The Lords Nrsimha, Ramachandra, and Krishna possess 60 transcendental opulences in full. When lighting many lamps from one original lamp, all the lamps possess the same nature, and similarly, although Ram and Nrsimha are expansions of Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna, all three of them possess 60 qualities in full. In the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, the dignity of moral codes is established. Therefore, Sri Ramachandra is known as Maryada Purushottam, the best form of the Supreme Lord in following codes of morality. Sri Rama's pastimes exhibit all rasas up to Vatsalya ras, parental affection. However, due to moral codes having the highest priority in these pastimes, the mood of parental affection has a restricted nature. Maharaj Dasharatha established these codes, so he is unable to prevent Sri Ramachandra from going to the forest. To exemplify these codes, Sri Ramachandra accepted exile in the forest to uphold a promise that his father had made. Dasharath Maharaj passed away because he was unable to bear the grief of separation from his son, Ramachandra. Sri Ramachandra vowed to accept only one wife, Eka Patni Vratadhara. Therefore, no one else can worship him as a husband. Kantaras, the conjugal mood, is not exhibited in these pastimes. When the sages of Dandakaranya desired to have Sri Ramachandra as their husband, he told them to achieve conjugal bliss by paying allegiance to the gopis in his pastimes as Krishna. Sri Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, the prime supreme personality of Godhead, whereas Ram, Nrsimha, and others are his partial manifestations, Angsha, are the parts of the partial manifestations, Kala. Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtana Navataramakar Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Parama Pumanyo Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma Samhita 539. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who's manifested himself in different forms such as Ram and others as his partial manifestations are parts of his partial manifestations. Ete changsa kala pungsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vridayanti Yuge Yuge. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.28. Previously, in every epoch, whatever avatars are narrated as partial manifestations or parts of partial manifestations appeared to protect the world from the oppression of demons. But Sri Krishna Vrajendra Nandan, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is original Bhagavan, the prime Purush, and is even prior to Adi Purush Avatar Mahavishnu. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam. The third chapter goes through all the different avatars, and then on this verse 28 it says all the previous avatars mentioned are Amsas and Kalas of Sri Krishna, who is Bhagavan Swayam. Only Sri Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. All these other incarnations are Bhagavan, but they're not Swayam Bhagavan. Only Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. And Sri Vishnu Dharmottara, Rama, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna are mentioned as being avatars of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha respectively. In Padma Puran, Sri Ramachandra is identified as Narayan, Sri Lakshman as Shesh, Sri Bharat as Lord Narayan's disc, his chakra, and Sri Shatrughna as his kanchal, his shankar. Nikshatriyam akritagam chatri saptakritvo Ramastu haya kulapyaya bhargavagni Sobdim pabanda dashabhaktram ahan swalankam Sita patir jayati lokamalagnakirti. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.4.21. In the form of Bhargava, Parshuram, the fiery destroyer of the Hai dynasty, the fiery destroyer of the Hai dynasty rid the earth of the Kshatriya class 21 times. That same Lord appeared in the form of Ram, the husband of Sita, who is renowned as the purifier of the world and rescuer of the people of the world. He built a bridge across the ocean and destroyed the 10-headed Ravan, along with his kingdom of Lanka. One can see the significant influence of the holy character of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes and the life of the Hindu society of India. In the original Valmiki Ramayana, it is written as follows. The sage Valmiki appeared as the 10th son in the lineage of Pracheta Rishi. One day, while living with his disciple Bharadvaj Muni, he went to bathe by the bank of the river Tamasa, which was near the Ganga, the Ganges. At that place, upon witnessing the killing of a male kroncha, a curlew bird, by a vyata, by a killer of birds, by a hunter, and the grief of the female kroncha, the sage became sad of heart and spoke the following poetic verse to the hunter. Ma nishada pratishtam tam agama sasvati sama yat kroncha mitunat ekam avadhik kama mohitam. It's from Valmiki Ramayana, Balakanda 2.15. O hunter, you will never be able to achieve success and stability throughout your life, since you have killed one of a pair of kroncha birds while it was totally absorbed in lustful affairs. Therefore, the great sage bathed in that holy place and returned to his ashram. Being stricken with grief, he was still thinking about the verse he had just uttered after spontaneously composing it. Just then, the four-headed Lord Brahma himself appeared before him and spoke the following words to console the perturbed Valmiki. O great sage, it was I who caused you to compose such a verse. Fret no longer over this matter. Instead, you should describe the holy transcendental biography of Sri Ramachandra, which was spoken by Devarshi Narad. Valmiki composed the Ramayana only because of this order of Brahma. It's Valmiki though who is the hunter, right? It wasn't the yeah. Anyhow. In a Bengali encyclopedia, a particular incident has been described as traditional hearsay. The story in brief is as follows. He was born from a Valmika, an anthill, so his name became Valmiki. When Lord Ramachandra visited Valmiki's ashram near Chitrakoot, Valmiki glorified the name of Ram and his birth pastimes before the Lord. Although Valmiki was born in the house of a Brahmin, he acquired an abominable violent nature due to the association of a Vyadha. He fathered many children from the womb of a Shudra, a low-class woman. He practiced robbery as a means of maintaining them. Oh, okay, so I was wrong. Yeah, okay. Anyhow. He practiced robbery as a means of maintaining them. One day, when he was attacked by some sages, they asked him to give up the practice of robbery. They said that he would have to suffer the consequences of whatever sins he was committing by robbing people. Upon returning home and asking his father, mother, wife, and other family members, he found out that they would not share the fruits of his sins. He then asked the sages for a remedy. The sages first advised him to chant the name of Ram. However, upon not being able to utter the name of Ram from his mouth, he was instructed to chant Mara, death, instead. Following their instructions, he chanted Mara, death, 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 Mara, 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 for thousands of yugas, for thousands of eons. By chanting Mara, Mara, the reversal of Ram, Ram, the name of Ram was eventually pronounced from his mouth. Mara, 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 Rama, 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 Rama. And he achieved perfection in chanting the name of Lord Ram. Because he was sitting in one place while chanting for such a long time, his body had become the home of Valmikas, ants or termites. Therefore, people gave him the name Valmiki. I never knew that history. I mean, how he got that name, Valmiki. And the Bengali, I knew the Mara, Mara, Mara part, but I didn't know that's how he got his name, Valmiki. In the Bengali Ramayana, written by Sri Kritivas Oja Upadhyay, some differences from the above description can be seen. Sri Chyavan Muni was Valmiki's father. In his youth, Valmiki's name was Ratnakar, and he maintained his family by robbing. One day he attacked Brahma and Narad, who then asked Ratnakar who he thought would share in his sins. Ratnakar then returned home and asked his parents and wife if they would share the repercussions of his sinful activities. After asking everyone, he came to know that no one would share his sins. He became repentant, and when he inquired as to a remedy for these sins, Brahma advised him to chant the name of Ram. Due to excessive sins, his mouth was unable to pronounce the word Ram. Acting on Brahma's instructions, he chanted the reverse name of Mara Mara. By chanting Mara Mara, he was eventually able to chant the holy name Ram. Due to performing austerities for a long time, his body became covered with the homes of Valmikas, which was then cleansed with rain by Indra. As the Valmikas had covered him, his name became Valmiki. He wrote the Ramayana on the instruction of Narad. The Ramayana is as famous as the original epic of India. During the time of the Ramayana, Sanskrit was prevalent as the spoken language in Aryan society. The word Arya, honorable, spiritually cultured, has been used quite often in the Ramayana. Special respect for the Ramayana has been observed in places as far away as Java, Indonesia. Although a large book, the Ramayana of Javadvip has no section divisions, but does have chapter divisions. The Valmiki Ramayana is of three kinds: Uddicha, Dakshinatya, and Gaudiya. The Uddicha indicates the northwestern Ramayana, and the Dakshinatya indicates the southern Ramayana. There is no significant difference between the text and subject of the Uddicha and Dakshinatya Ramayans. However, differences can be seen in the Gaudiya Ramayana. There are 28 commentaries on the Ramayana. The Ramayana has been written in all the languages of India. Among the Ramayans written in Indian languages, the Tamil Ramayana of Kumbala, composed by the 9th century of the Christian era, the Bengali Ramayana of Kritivas, composed in the 15th century, and the Hindi Ramayana of Tulsidas, composed in the 17th century, are the most famous. In the Western countries, the Ramayana was apparently first translated into the Italian language. Interesting. The Valmiki Ramayana has been written in 7 khandas, sections, namely Adi Khanda, Ayodhya Khanda, Aranya Khanda, Kishkinda Khanda, Sundar Khanda, Lanka Khanda, and Uttar Khanda. The Ramayana is a voluminous scripture. From the description of Ramachandra's lineage in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that Ramachandra appears in the solar dynasty, the Surya Vangsha. Ishvaku, the son of Vaivasvata Manu, is the origin of the solar dynasty, and his descendants proceed in the following order. Rupmandri just sent me something. Okay. Ishvaku, the son of Vaivasvata Manu, is the origin of the solar dynasty, and his descendants. So the descendants proceed in the following order. Mandata from Ishvaku, Trisanku's son Harishchandra, Harishchandra's son Rohit, and after that Maharaj Sagar, Asamanjasa, Asuman, Dilip, and Bhagirat. In this lineage came Asmak, King Balika, and other kings. When Parshuram was killing the Kshatriyas, King Balika was saved from his wrath due to being surrounded by women. Hence, one of his names became Nari Kavach, shielded by women. Sorry. Being the root of the Kshatriya lineage, he became famous by the name of Mulak. In the lineage of Balika, a great emperor, King Katvanga, took birth. From Katvanga, Dirgabahu, Raghu, Prithushrava, Aja, and finally Aja's son, Maharaj Dasharath, was born. Katvangana Dirgabahushcha Raghus Tasmat Prithushrava Ajastato Maharajas Tasmat Dasharato Bhavat. Srimad Bhagavatam 9.10.1. Due to the prayers of the demigods, the Supreme Lord Sri Hari agreed to become the son of King Dasharath along with his expansions as Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. According to the description of Valmiki Ramayana, Dasharath, acting upon the advice of Sumantra, arranged for a Putreshti Yagya to be conducted by the powerful Rishi Rishya Shringa to obtain a son, Rishya Shringa. Subsequently, he begot the Supreme Lord and his expansions as his sons in the previously mentioned 4 forms. His principal queen, Kaushalya, became pregnant after eating charu, an oblation of rice, milk, and sugar boiled together, which remained after the yagya. At the auspicious time of Purnavasu Nakshatra and the 4th zodiacal sign of Cancer, in the month of Chaitra, on the 9th day of the waxing moon, Lord Sri Ramachandra appeared. Bharat appeared from the womb of Kaikeyi during the Pushya Nakshatra, Meena Lagna, and Lakshman and Shatrughna appeared from the womb of Sumitra during the Ashlesha Nakshatra, Karkata Lagna. Ahalya was freed of the curse of becoming a stone by dint of her encounter with Sri Ramachandra. The great sage Gotama was the husband of Ahalya. Devaraj Indra deceived Ahalya by assuming the form of Gotama and corrupting her chastity. Displeased with this, Gotama cursed Ahalya, and Indra. Turned to stone by the curse of Gotama, Ahalya remained without food for many years, surviving only on air. Ahalya was finally freed from this curse by the touch of the lotus feet of Sri Ramachandra, and was then reunited with her husband Gotama. In the pastimes of Sri Ramachandra, the following ethical codes is of primary importance. His pastimes strongly evoke the sentiment of compassion. By the mercy of Sri Ramachandra, we can be saved from immorality and adharma, unrighteousness. The Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, prayed to Sri Ramachandra in the following way to teach us. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Rakshamam means rescue me. So, oh Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, rescue me. From the pastimes of Ramachandra, we learn about the necessity of accepting and serving a spiritual master, devotion to one's parents, and the duties of a brother and wife. The Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra has exhibited the pastime of abandoning the opulence of royal life, which is very difficult to give up, and of abandoning a perfect wife for keeping dharma and ethics intact. He accepted all kinds of suffering, accepted exile in the forest, and went without food and sleep. He walked with his soft lotus feet on the forest paths, which were full of thorns. Out of love for his devotees, the Lord bestowed his mercy upon the Chandal Guhak. As the protector of one who surrenders to him, the Lord awarded shelter to Vibhishan. Sri Rama's pastimes demonstrate how a hen-pecked person becomes miserable, and how those who consider someone merely dressed as a sadhu, lacking genuine qualification, to be a real sadhu. Those persons who consider someone, that fake sadhu, to be a real sadhu, become cheated and end up miserable. By annihilating demons such as Ravan and Kumbhakarna, he destroys the living being's innermost demoniac tendency. To instruct his subjects and for their pleasure, he underwent suffering by asking for Sita's trial by fire. He underwent suffering by asking for Sita's trial by fire, and her banishment to the forest. Austerities are prohibited for those with evil motives, who are in the mode of dark ignorance, because those austerities only create havoc in the world. To teach this, he killed the Shudra Sambuka while the latter was engaged in performing austerities. He taught all these lessons by setting the example himself. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswāmī covers the main topics by describing the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra in brief. These topics are described in Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. The pastimes of Lord Sri Ramachandra are wonderful, like those of a playful baby elephant. At Sita's Swayamvar, the assembly where Mother Sita was to choose her husband, in the midst of all the heroes, he playfully lifted the immensely heavy bow of Lord Shiva, the Haradhanu, which was brought in by 300 men. He then bent and strung it and broke it in everyone's presence. After breaking the Haradhanu at the Swayamvar, the Lord gained King Janak's daughter Sita, who had not been born from the womb, and who was equally as endowed as the Lord with transcendental qualities of form, beauty, age, behavior, and nature, just like Lakshmi. While returning, he crushed the pride of Parshuram, who had rid the earth of Kshatriyas 21 times. As described in the Ramayana, at the time of Rama's marriage to Sita and Mithila, King Dasharath came with his other sons, ministers and sages. There, Lakshman married Urmila, the daughter of Shishadhwaj Janak, the king of Mithila, and Bharat and Shatrughna married the two daughters of Kushadhwaj, Mandavi and Shrutakirti. To reveal the condition of persons who are attached to women, Lord Sri Ramachandra, in order to fulfill the desire of his wife, ran after a golden deer. This deer was in fact Maricha, who had assumed this form according to the instructions of Ravan. Taking advantage of the golden opportunity of Sri Ramachandra's absence, Ravan kidnapped Sita. To exhibit the sorrowful condition of a person who is attached to women, Sri Ramachandra wandered in the forest in a pitiable state, with his brother Lakshman displaying distress due to separation from his beloved. In this context, as written in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the example of a devotee of Ram in South India is to be considered. How was it that Ravan, who is overcast with gloom and arrogance, could kidnap Sita Devi, the absolute counterpart, transcendental spiritual energy of the absolute transcendental Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra? Upon seeing this description of the Ramayana, a Brahman devotee of Ram became filled with grief and gave up eating. Sriman Mahaprabhu put this question to him. Considering that the ignorant Ravan had not even seen the absolute transcendental spiritual energy, Sita Devi, how could he have kidnapped her? Explaining, Sriman Mahaprabhu said that Ravan had only kidnapped the Maya Sita, or illusory material form of Sita, and that the real Sita had disappeared. The story of the kidnapping of Maya Sita is described in the Kurma Puran of Vedavyas Muni. In the pastimes of Ram, a wonderful quality can be seen in the character of Bharat. When obstructed in the service of the Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra, he even rejected his own mother. Guru nasasyat svajano nasasyat, pita nasasyat janani nasasyat, daivam natasyam napatishtasasyam, namo chayedya samupetan mrityum. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.18. He who cannot rescue a conditioned soul from the worldly bondage of proximate death by advising the path of devotion to God is not entitled to be accepted as a real guru, real kinsman, real father. Such a man should not endeavor to beget a child. Real mother, such a woman should not endeavor to conceive. Real demigod, such a demigod should not be eligible for worship. Or a real husband, such a man should not marry. The Supreme Lord creates all living beings, but is satisfied only after creating man. Man has the ability to discriminate between good and bad, eternal and non-eternal, and can worship the Supreme Lord. Human birth is not meant only for eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, like the beasts, birds, aquatics, and other animals. Still, we generally find that most people have little or no inclination to worship God. Evidently, we cannot quality and quantify at the same time. We cannot have quality and quantity at the same time. If we wish to increase quantity, we must sacrifice quality, and vice versa. After killing Ravan, and upon finishing the period of his forced exile, Sri Ramachandra returned to Ayodhya on the Pushpak, the flower airplane with Sita Devi, Hanuman, Sugriva, and Lakshman. The citizens, Brahma, and the other demigods were in a state of jubilation. However, Sri Ramachandra lamented upon hearing that his brother Bharat was eating barely, cooked in the urine of a cow, and was covering his body with the bark of trees, was wearing matted locks of hair, and lying down on kusha grass. When Sri Ramachandra returned to Ayodhya, Bharat took Lord Ramachandra's wooden shoes upon his head and came out of Nandigram, accompanied by ministers, priests, and citizens, singing and playing music. He fell at the lotus feet of Sri Ramachandra with his eyes full of tears of love. Bharat exhibited such a wonderful character. It is difficult for modern men to even contemplate such an ideal. For 14 years he lived like that. Even though he was king, he was put in the position of king. In the present-day situation, the administrative class will not hesitate to perform any heinous work to protect their position. Where there is great attachment to position, there cannot be good administration. We can learn from the ideal examples of character of Sri Ramachandra and Bharat what the proper character for administrators should be. Upon seeing their beloved king Sri Ramachandra after a long period of separation, his subjects showered him with flower garlands and danced in great ecstasy. At that time, Bharat carried Ramachandra's wooden shoes, Sugriva and Vibhishan carried a chamar, a fly whisk, and an excellent fan. Hanuman carried a white umbrella. Shatrugna carried a bow and quiver. Sita Devi carried a water pot filled with water from holy places. Angad carried a sword, and Jambavan carried a golden amulet. While wandering in Ayodhya in disguise, Sri Ramachandra heard one of his subjects casting aspersions upon the character of Sita Devi. Upon hearing this, the Lord banished Sita Devi, even though she was pregnant. What a wonderful idea and spirit of sacrifice! What a wonderful ideal and spirit of sacrifice this was to teach his subjects. Iti lokar bahumukad duraradyad asamvida patabhitena satyakta prapta prachetasasramam. Srimad Bhagavatam 9:11-10. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and heinous character speak nonsensically. Fearing such rascals, Lord Ramachandra abandoned his pregnant wife Sita Devi. Thus, after being banished by Ram, Sita Devi went to Valmiki Muni's ashram. Sri Ramachandra even abandoned his brother Lakshman, who was dearer to him than his own life, in order to maintain the codes of Dharma. The gist of this incident is as follows. Once, Lord Brahma sent Kal in the form of Tapas as a messenger to Sri Ramachandra. Kal is time. Before conveying Brahma's message, the messenger placed the condition before Sri Ramachandra that he would tell him the message if Sri Ram promised him that no one would be able to hear his words. If anyone heard or saw their secret conversation, he would be fit to be killed by Sri Ram. Sri Ramachandra accepted this condition. However, while the secret conversation between the messenger and Sri Ramachandra was taking place, Durvasa Rishi came to see Ramachandra. Lakshman, who was appointed as the gatekeeper during the secret conversation, became afraid upon seeing the angry form of Durvasa Rishi, and went to Sri Ramachandra to ask his permission to allow him inside. To keep his promise, on the instructions of Vasishtha, Sri Ramachandra banished his brother Lakshman, who was dearer to him than his own life. Lakshman's demonstration that the elder brother is as respectable as the father, his abandonment of all material comforts for the service of his object of worship, Sri Ramachandra, and his service to him for 14 years while being in the forest with him, are all ideal examples. Lakshman had not been ordered to go to the forest in exile, yet he went after his elder brother to serve him. Lakshman, with his transcendental powers and the help of Vibhishan, was able to obstruct the Nikumbila Yagya of Ravan's son, Meghanad, who had conquered Indra. Lakshman then killed Meghanad. Indrajit, Meghanad, obtained the boon that only one who is able to remain without food for 14 years and who also has full control over the senses would be able to kill him. That's very specific, 14 years. Lakshman did not take food while living in the forest for 14 years and performed the pastime of conquering all his senses. While remaining all the time with Sri Ramachandra and Sita Devi and serving them, he never saw beyond the lotus feet of Sita Devi. Even Sri Rama's internal potency, Sita Devi, although instructed repeatedly by Sri Ramachandra not to go with him to the forest, as this punishment was meant for him and not for her or anyone else, Sri Sita Devi left behind all comforts for the service of her husband. By this action, she defined the duty of a chaste wife and exhibited the ideal of following the husband. Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra was completely fascinated by the pure love of Sita Devi, which surpassed all his expectations. But in order to teach the Dharma of a king who is engaged in the welfare of the citizens, and although giving pain to himself, he asked for the ordeal by fire, the Agni Pariksha, and declared the injunction of banishment of Sita Devi, who is non-different from his own self. Once arrangements were being made for an Ashwamedha Yajna under the priesthood of Vasishtha and other sages. The wife of the person to perform the Ashwamedha Yajna has to be initiated in the Yajna before the husband. Because of this rule, it was proposed that Sri Ramachandra get married again, but Sri Ramachandra rejected the proposal and arranged to have a golden deity of Sita instead. He was given Yajna initiation along with the golden deity of Sita as his wife. What can be a better example of Sita Devi's most excellent chastity and love than this? Yet to remove the doubts of the citizens in the Naimisha area on the banks of the Gomati, he invited sages, all the kings, and even Sugriv along with the Vanaras, the monkeys, and Vibhishan along with the Rakshasas, a type of demon. Maharshi Valmiki was also present in the sacrificial arena with Lava and Kush. Upon hearing the Ramayana from Lava and Kush, which had been composed by Valmiki, Sri Ramachandra understood that they were his sons. Acting on the order of Valmiki Muni, Ramachandra sent messengers to invite Sita Devi to prove her chastity before everyone at the sacrificial arena. Sita Devi saw that even after she had been tested 2 times, everyone's doubt had not been removed. Therefore, she came with the determination that this time she would enter into Rasatal, the lowest of the 7 underworlds. So addressing the earth goddess, she said, "O Devi, if I do not think of anyone other than Raghava in my mind, then divide into 2 parts and give me shelter. If this is true, I worship Ram with all my senses and do not know anyone other than Ram. O Devi, divide into 2 parts and let me enter." Everyone was astonished to see a miraculous divine throne come up from the middle of the earth, and as Sita Devi sat on it, it entered into Rasatal. Upon Sita Devi's entering into Rasatal, everyone glorified her with loud applause. Sri Ramachandra, taking support of the Yajnadanda, lowered his face and cried for a long time in the grief of separation from Sita. In the Ramayana, Hanuman's dedication to his object of worship is displayed to the utmost, and his devoutness has an ideal place among the servants of Ram. For the nourishment of Sriman Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Hanuman appeared as Murari Gupta. Sorry, I had to crack my back. Sriman Mahaprabhu taught the glories and importance of dedication to one's object of worship through Murari Gupta. Sriman Mahaprabhu explained to Murari Gupta that worship of Sri Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is best. Upon hearing the subject from Mahaprabhu, Murari Gupta promised him that from now on he would worship Sri Krishna. But even after giving his word to Mahaprabhu, he was not able to keep his promise to the very end. Murari Gupta then fell at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu and spoke the following words while crying. Raghunathir pai mui bechiyacho mata. Is it mata? No. Kandite na pari mata mane pai vyata. Shri Raghunatha charan charana na jai tava agya bhanga hoy ki koro upay. Tate more e kripa koro dayamay tomar age mritu hok jog samsay. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 15, 149, 151. I have sold my head unto the lotus feet of Raghunath. I cannot withdraw my head, for that would give me too much pain. It is not possible for me to give up the service of Raghunath's lotus feet. At the same time, if I do not do so, I shall break your order. What can I do? You are all merciful, so kindly grant me the mercy that I may die before you, so that all my doubts will be finished. While assuring Murari Gupta, Mahaprabhu praised him, saying, "E mata tomar nishta jani pare tare, tomare agraha ami koilu bare bare, shakshat Hanumana tumi Shri Rama kinkar, tumi kene charibe tar charana kamal." Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 15, 155 to 156. Just to test your firm faith in your Lord, I requested you again and again to change your worship from Lord Ramachandra to Lord Krishna. Indeed, you are the incarnation of Hanuman. Consequently, you are an eternal servant of Lord Ramachandra. Why should you give up the worship of Lord Ramachandra and his lotus feet? The Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra, glorifying his servant Hanuman, spoke to Maharishi Agastya as follows. The strengths of Bali and Ravan, although being incomparable, were not equal to that of Hanuman's. Hanuman is filled with chivalry, valor, patience, intelligence, scriptural knowledge, and all other desirable qualities. Hanuman alone accomplished the crossing of the ocean between the southern India and Lanka, the bringing of the message of Sita, the killing of the demons, the subsequent burning of Lanka, and so on. We do not hear such deeds even of Yam, Indra, Kuver, and others. It is only by the strength of Hanumanji that I have achieved victory over Lanka, rescued Sita, and saw Lakshman come back to life after being hit by an irresistibly powerful javelin. The question may be raised that if Hanuman was so powerful, then why did he not kill Vali during Vali's fight with Sugriva? In reply to this, Agastya Muni narrates the story of Hanuman's curse. Let me check if everything's still running. Yes, it is. Okay, good. Because my internet was really bad before. Yeah, so this is Agastya Muni narrates the story of Hanuman's curse. Hanuman was fathered by Vayu, the wind god, and took birth from the womb of Anjana. After the birth of Hanuman, Anjana went to the forest to pick some fruits due to distress from hunger. Upon seeing the red sun looking like a java flower, a hibiscus flower, Hanuman mistook it for a fruit and jumped up to eat it. To protect his son from the sun's heat, the cool wind, Vayu, began to blow. Knowing that the approaching child Hanuman would perform a great deed in the future, the sun did not burn him. That day, Rahu, the truncated demon, the eclipse, went to devour the sun, but upon seeing Rahu, Hanuman went to eat him also. Being afraid, Rahu ran to Indra and told him that when he went to devour the sun, another Rahu had attacked him. Indra, while following on his elephant Airavat, assured Rahu and sent him ahead as they approached the sun. Hanuman again saw the returning Rahu as a fruit. Seeing Hanuman coming to catch him, Rahu cried out loudly. Mistaking Airavat for a big fruit, Hanuman went to catch him also. Seeing no other way to stop him, Indra attacked Hanuman with his Vajra, his thunderbolt weapon. Hanuman's left Hanu, his left jaw was broken, and he fell down on a mountain. Upon seeing the unfortunate condition of his baby son, Vayu entered into a cave with him. At the disappearance of air, Vayu, all the living beings stopped breathing and evacuating, and dried up like wood. The demigods and demons approached Brahma to save their lives. Brahma saw the golden-complexioned child in the lap of Vayu, and touched him with compassion and affection. When Hanuman regained his life, Vayu, air, started flowing again with satisfaction. Brahma told the demigods that this child would someday perform some great work, so they should bless him. Then Indra blessed the child with the following words. Hanuman will never be killed, even if hit by the Vajra weapon. His jaw was broken by the Vajra, therefore his name will be Hanuman. Interesting. Surya, the sun, gave a 100th part of his splendor to Hanuman, and also gave him the benediction that he would be a great speaker, very learned in the scriptures. Varuna, Yam, Kubera, and others also gave benedictions to Hanuman. Brahma assured Vayu by saying that Hanuman would bestow fearlessness to friends, fear to enemies, would be undefeatable, would be able to travel with unparalleled speed, and would perform great deeds. Becoming powerful by all these blessings, Hanuman began to create mischief in the ashrams of sages due to his childish playfulness. In order to control him, the sages cursed him that he would not be aware of his own power for a long time. He would come to know of his power only if someone told him about it. Thereafter, Hanuman became quiet and wandered peacefully. Hanumanji's influence is seen strongly in northern and western India. In these regions, almost all the followers of Sanatana Dharma install and worship the deity of Hanuman. They especially recite the glories of Hanuman from the Ramayana of Tulsidas. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the description of the avatar for Kali Yuga has been disclosed in the context of Yuga avatars. In that description, Vedavyas Muni has sung the glories of Kali Yuga's avatari, Shriman Mahaprabhuji, in 2 verses. Both of these verses can be understood in relation to Sri Ramachandra. Deyam sada paribhavagnam abhishta doham tirtaspadam shiva virinchi nutam saranyam prityartiham pranatapala pavabdi potam vande mahapurushute charanaravindam. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.33. God, my eyes are starting to hurt. O Mahapurush, protector of all who offer respects unto you, you are always meditated upon. You are the destroyer of the embarrassing conditions of material life, the provider of all that is desirable, and the abode of all holy places. You are worshipped by Lord Shiva and Lord Virinchi, Brahma. You are the shelter, the remover of your servants' distress, and the deliverer from the ocean of material existence. I offer my obeisances unto your lotus feet. Tyakta sudustyajat surepsita raja lakshmin, dharmishta arya vachasa yaragararanyam, maya mrigam daita yepsitaman anvadhavar, vande mahapurushute charanaravindam. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5-34. O Mahapurush, the best of all those who are followers of Dharma, you gave up Lakshmi and the opulence of royal life, which are desired even by the demigods. You went to the forest to honor the word of the Arya, and ran after the illusory deer to fulfill the desire of your beloved. I offer my obeisances unto your lotus feet. Vitarasi dikshurane dikpada, Vitarasi dikshurane dikpati kamaniyam, Dashamukamoli balim ramaniyam, Keshavadrita Rama Sharira, Jai Jagarisha Hare, Jai Jagarisha Hare, Jai Jagarisha Hare. Shri Jayadev's Dashavatar Stotram, 7th verse. O Keshav, in the form of Ram, you cut off the 10 heads of Ravan and made delightful gifts of them to the lords of the 10 directions. O Lord of the universe, all glories unto you, manifested in the form of Ram. For those who are unacquainted with the stories of Ramayana, the following are brief summaries of the 7 khandas. Okay. Adi Khanda. Nara describes the pastimes of Lord Ram. Valmiki composes the Ramayana. Lav and Kush sing the Ramayana. Dasharath's bringing of Rishyanga Rishi. Rishya Shringa Rishi. Lord Narayan accepts the sonhood of Dasharath. The birth of Vali, Sugriva, Hanuman, and other Vanaras, monkeys. The birth of Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. Sage Vishwamitra arrives in Ayodhya to take Ram and Lakshman to slay the Rakshasas, the demons. Dasharath refuses to let Ram and Lakshman go with Vishwamitra at first, but later agrees. The narration of the births of Tadak and Maricha. The slaying of Tadak by Ram. A description of the lineage of Kusha. Vishwamitra's narration of the origin of Ganga. King Sagar gets 60, and this is the narration. King Sagar gets 60,000 sons. Sagar's dynasty is destroyed by the curse of Kapila Muni. Bhagirath gets a boon from Brahma. Ganga goes to Patal, the netherworld. Deliverance of the sons of Sagar. Indra cuts to pieces a fetus in the womb of Diti. A description of a curse of Ahalya and Indra. The description of the curse of Ahalya and Indra. The redemption of Ahalya from her curse. Ram and Lakshman travel to the sacrificial arena of King Janak. Vishwamitra arrives at the ashram of Vashishta. Vishwamitra steals the Shabala cow. Vishwamitra is defeated doing battle with Vashishta. Vishwamitra performs austerities and attains the status of a Brahman. King Janak attains the Haradhanu, the bow of Lord Shiva. Ramachandra breaks the Haradhanu and accepts Sita as his wife. The marriage of Ramachandra and others. Parshuram's pride is destroyed. Dasharath arrives in Ayodhya with his daughters-in-law. Bharat journeys to his maternal home. So that's all the Adi Khanda. Now the Ayodhya Khanda. Dasharath decides to install Sri Ramachandra as the crown prince. Vashishta visits Ram and Dasharath. The discussion between Kaikeyi and Manthara. Kaikeyi requests the boon of the exile of Ram and the boon of the appointment of Bharat as the crown prince. Dasharath laments. Ram decides to go to the forest to honor his father's promise. Sita and Lakshman depart for the forest with Ram. Ram, Lakshman, and Sita accept garments made of tree bark. The further lamentation of Dashrath. Rama meets Guhak, the king of the Nishadas, the low-caste hunters. Guhak's unprecedented devotion for Ram. Ram goes to Chitrakoot and to Valmiki. Dashrath laments again, hearing the message of Ram from Sumantra, the lamentation of Kaushalya. Dashrath narrates the description of the killing of Rishi Kumar, the death of Dashrath. A messenger is sent to bring Bharat. Bharat laments upon hearing about the death of his father. Bharat refuses to accept the kingdom. Bharat arrives at Chitrakoot with his armies. Sri Ramachandra laments on hearing of the death of his father. Jabali gives instructions on Dharma to Ram. Bharat returns with Ram's wooden shoes, hands over the kingdom to his guru, and departs for Nandigram. The story of Ram and Kulapati in Chitrakoot. The ashram of Atri Muni. And the Aranyakanda. Sri Ramachandra enters the Dandak forest. The slaying of Rakshasa Virada and the slaying of the Rakshasa Virada. Sutikshna Muni narrates the story of Ilvavatapi to Ram and chants the glories of Agastya Muni. Sri Ram's introduction to Jatayu. Ram resides in the forests of Panchavati. Lakshman cuts off the nose of Suparnaka. The killing of the 14,000 Rakshasas sent by Kara. The slaying of the 3 Rakshasas Dushan, Trisir, and Kara. Ravan becomes angry upon hearing about the deaths of Kara and Dushan. Ravan goes to the ashram of Maricha and plots to kidnap Sita. Ravan decides to kidnap Sita on Suparnaka's advice, even after restraint from Maricha. Maricha assumes the form of a golden deer and departs for the Dandaka forest. Ram leaves to kill Maricha in the form of a deer. Lakshman goes after Ram upon being rebuked rudely by Sita. Ravan abducts Sita. The fight between Jatayu and Ravan. Sita drops jewelry from Ravan's chariot. Ravan leaves Sita in the Ashoka grove and goes to his inner palace. Ram laments on the disappearance of Sita. The hearing of the story of Sita from the dying Jatayu. The performance of the funeral ceremony of Jatayu. Ram and Lakshman cut off the arms of Kambanda. Ram and Lakshman go to Pampa Sarovar and meet Shabari. The discussion with Lakshman about going to Rishyamukha mountain. And the Kishkindakanda. Hanuman and the dress of a mendicant meets with Ram. Hanuman seats Ram and Lakshman on his back and takes them to Sugriv. Sugriv vows to rescue Sita and Ram. Sugriv vows to rescue Sita and Ram vows to kill Vali. Ram pierces the 7 tal, the palmyra trees. Sugriva is defeated in his first fight with Vali. The second time, Vali falls down after being pierced by the arrow of Ram. Vali hands Angad over to Sugriv and leaves his body. Tara laments. Sugriva's coronation and Ram's lament due to separation from Sita. Sugriva worries upon seeing Lakshman's fury. Messengers are sent in all directions to search for Sita. Ram gives his ring to Hanuman as an emblem. The Vanars return without discovering the whereabouts of Sita. Influenced by the mystic power of Mayadanava, Hanuman and other Vanars enter a cave and meet with a tapasvini, a female ascetic. Hanuman and others are delivered from the cave. Angad and others decide to fast unto death upon not obtaining any information about Sita. Sampati informs them about Sita. The Vanars depart for the seashore. The show of power of the Vanars. Jambuvan, the very powerful king of bears, narrates the birth pastimes of Hanuman. Hanuman increases his size. Sundarkanda. Hanuman leaps from the top of Mahendra mountain. The killing of Samhika. Hanuman's fight with Lankini, who had assumed the form of a Rakshasi. Hanuman enters the inner palace of Ravan and searches for Sita in the Ashoka grove. Hanuman grieves upon seeing the miserable condition of Sita. A description of the birth of the Rakshasi Trijata. Hanuman's meeting with Sita. Hanuman destroys the pleasure grove. Hanuman's intense fight with the Rakshasas. Hanuman kills Jambumali, Virupaksha, Akshay, Kumar, and other principal Rakshasas. Indrajit captures Hanuman and brings him to the court of King Ravan. Ravan orders Hanuman to be put to death. Vibhishan gives his advice to Ravan. Ravan orders the burning of Hanuman's tail. The burning of Lanka by Hanuman. Hanuman's second meeting with Sita. Hanuman returns to Mahendra mountain. The Vanars destroy Madhuban in a mood of joy after hearing the news of Sita. Hanuman gives Sita's emblem to Ramachandra. I like how they destroyed Madhuban because they're so happy. Just like jumping around, crashing trees and stuff. Okay. Lanka Kanda. Ramachandra weeps upon hearing of the lamentations of Sita from Hanuman. Rama instructs Sugriva to build a bridge. Vibhishan tries to give good advice to Ravan. Ravan speaks proud words. Vibhishan leaves Ravan and goes to Ram. Ravan sends his spy Shuka to the camp of the Vanar army. Ravan constructs a bridge. Shuka is freed and goes to the court of Ravan. Ravan again sends a spy, Chara. Sita laments upon being shown the illusory head of Ram by Ravan. Talks between Sita and Saram. Malyavan, a Rakshasa, gives good advice to Ravan. Ramachandra views Lanka from Subela mountain. Rama surrounds Lanka with his army. The battle begins. Ram and Lakshman are bound by Indrajit. The Vanar soldiers become depressed. Ramachandra laments upon seeing the sad plight of Lakshman. Ram and Lakshman are freed from the Naga Pasha, the snake noose of Indrajit. Ravan enters the battle after Dhumraksha, Vajradangshtra, Akampan, and Prahasta perish. Kumbhakarna's sleep is interrupted after Ravan's defeat. Kumbhakarna chastises Ravan. Kumbhakarna enters the battle. Sugriva cuts off Kumbhakarna's nose as he is entering into Lanka with him. Kumbhakarna again sets off for battle. Ram kills Kumbhakarna. The killing of Narantaka, Devantaka, and Mahodar. Trisira and other giant Rakshasas. Indrajit enters the battle and wins. Hanuman brings the mountain of herbs. The Vanars burn Lanka. The killing of Nikumba. The killing of Nikumba, Makaraksha, and other Rakshasas. Indrajit kills the illusory Sita. Indrajit kills the illusory Sita. Indrajit enters... What? Anyhow. Indrajit enters Lankapuri for the Nikumbila Yagya. Ram laments upon hearing... Oh yeah, I remember now. He didn't actually kill Sita. Ram laments upon hearing of the death of Sita from Hanuman. Lakshman kills Indrajit. Ravan laments. Ravan hits Lakshman with an irresistibly powerful javelin. Hanuman brings Gandhamandan mountain. The treatment of Lakshman. The intense battle between Rama and Ravan. Ram kills Ravan with the Brahmastra weapon. The lamentation of Mandodari. The coronation of Vibhishan. Sita hears the message of victory from Hanuman. Sita's ordeal by fire. Sri Ramachandra accepts Sita Devi. Ramachandra's conversation with Dasharath, who is brought back by Mahadev. The Vanar army is revived by the nectar of immortality from Devaraj Indra. Ramachandra leaves for Ayodhya on the Pashupak airplane. The reunion with Bharadwaj, Guhak, and others. Uttarkanda. The coronation of Sri Ram. The birth of Kubera and his taking up residence in Lanka. A description of the birth of the Rakshasas by Agastya Muni. The demigods go to Mahadev. Following the order of Mahadev, the demigods go to Vishnu. The Rakshasas journey to Sura Loka for battle. Malya Vanar flees to Patal after being defeated by Sumali. Sumali's daughter goes to Vishvasrava, and Ravan and others. Oh God, starting to get tired. Sumali's daughter goes to Vishvasrava, and Ravan and others take birth from her womb. Ravan and others perform austerities. Ravan conquers Lanka and becomes the king. The birth of Indrajit. Ravan goes to fight with Kuvera. Kuvera's defeat. Vedavati curses Ravan. Ravan fights with Yama on the advice of Narad. Ravan goes to Vali. Ravan conquers the planet of the sun god. Friendship with Mandata. Ravan sees Kapila in Patal. Ravan enters Lanka and orders Suparnaka, who is burning from the fire of grief of separation from her husband, to go to the Dandaka forest. I think I need to stand up. Oh, Krishna. I only slept like 3 hours last night. So I'm just really out of it. Let me just... Oh! Okay, there. Okay. Ravan sees Kapila in Patal. Wait, where did it go? Okay. I forgot where I was. Ravan conquers Lanka and becomes... Okay. Malya Banar flees to Patal after being defeated by Sumali. Sumali's daughter goes to Vishvasrava and Ravan, and others take birth from her womb. Ravan and others perform austerities. Ravan conquers Lanka and becomes king. The birth of Indrajit. Ravan goes to fight with Kuvera. Kuvera's defeat. Vedavati curses Ravan. Ravan fights with Yama on the advice of Narad. Ravan goes to Vali. Ravan conquers the planet of the sun god. Friendship with Mandata. Ravan sees Kapila in Patal. Ravan enters Lanka and orders Suparnaka, who is burning from the fire of the grief of separation from her husband, to go to the Dandaka forest. Friendship with the Madhu demon. Indrajit enters Lanka, taking Indra with him. Indra gets free in the story of Ahilya. A description of the fight between Kartavirya Arjuna and Ravan. The friendship of Ravan and Vali. I didn't know any of this part of the Uttarakhanda existed. A description of Hanuman's birth. A description of the births of Vali and Sugriva. Ravan goes to Shvetadvip. The Vanars and Rakshasas return to their respective places. A description of the wanderings of Sita and Ram in the Ashoka forest. Upon hearing rumors about Sita, Ram orders Lakshman to banish Sita. I only knew this part of the Uttarakhanda. Lakshman leaves Sita in the area of Valmiki's ashram. Lakshman returns to Ram. Ram tells Lakshman about Nimi and Vashishta. The episode of Yayati. Sri Ramachandra orders Shatrughna to kill Lavan. The birth of Lav and Kush in the ashram of Valmiki. The episode of Mandata. Shatrughna kills Lavan and establishes the capital of Mathura. Ram cuts off the head of the Shudra Sambuka because he is performing austerities. A description of the killing of Vritra and the Ashwamedha Yagya of Indra. Ram goes to Naimisharanya. Valmiki comes to the Yagya of Ram with his disciples, and Lav and Kush sing the Ramayana. Sita comes to the court of Ram and enters into Patal. Kaushalya and others leave their bodies. The coronation of Angad and Chandraketu. Kal comes to Ram in the form of Tapas. Durvasa arrives. Ram banishes Lakshman. The coronation of Lav and Kush. Sri Ramachandra enters into the Sarayu with the Vanars, Rakshasas, and other citizens. The glories of singing Ramayana. Whoa, that was really awesome. Just got a full description of the Ramayana in just, I don't know how long that took, maybe like 15 minutes or something. Right now it says that nobody is watching, but I don't know if that's just a mistake on my, because sometimes sometimes the program stops. Oh, it looks like there's people watching. I just got another message. Just stopped working. All right. So I was planning on reading, I'll show you. Actually, let me share the screen again. Okay, you're still there. Thanks for sticking for this so long. But yeah, I was planning on reading the other things that Rupa Manjari shared with me. This article, which is an answer to a question. Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja's answer to the question, how can we overcome the propensity to find faults and criticize others? I was planning on reading this. Actually, it's not so long. Okay, let's read this. And then after, I'm going to stop. I don't have time to read these memories of Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja by different devotees. But you can check out this website, tirthagoswami.blogspot.com. I gave the link in the description, so you can check that out. So let's read this article, and then I have to leave for a program where I'm going to go through, and we're going to be doing a program at Surabhi Kunj with Tridandi Maharaj and Shoti Maharaj and other people there. So, question. How can we overcome the propensity to find fault and criticize others? Answer by His Divine Grace, Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Our most revered Gurudev occasionally warned us by saying that after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates, as well as the prominent Vaishnava Acharyas Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Prabhu, and Srinivasacharya, etc., darkness descended on the horizon of Shuddha Bhakti, and many pseudo-sects cropped up. The renowned Saint Totaram Das Babaji Maharaj mentioned 13 pseudo-sects: Aul Baal Kartabhaja, Neda Daravesh, Shani Sahajya Sakibeki Smartha Jati Gosai, Ativari Chudahari Goranga Nagari, Toto Kohe E Tera Sangha Nahi Kori. Tota says, I will not associate with these different groups. Sincere aspirants should be careful to avoid association of the pseudo-sects. Each of the pseudo-sects try to establish that they are actually preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, but actually they are defaming, disrespecting, and tarnishing the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Our Guru Varga refuted their contentions with strong words so that sincere souls would not be misled and deprived of getting actual spiritual devotional benefit. A novice beginner may be cheated, but at the same time, they gave a warning to us. Don't attack, out of personal grudge, the persons who are preaching pseudo-sects. We shouldn't attack out of personal grudge. We are not to attack any person in this world, as he is from Krishna. By Krishna and in lace. Krishna lace. I don't get that. What's lace mean? Yeah, I know it as an open fabric of cotton or silk made by looping, twisting. Fasten or tighten. Entwine. Add an ingredient. Anyhow. Sadhus have got no personal grudge to anybody in this world, but for the eternal benefit of all, they refute the anti-devotional contentions, only to save sincere souls from being misled. If we attack those proponents with hostile mentality, those bad qualities of the pseudo-sects will revert to us, and we will have a spiritual fall. Even if followers of those protagonists come to the sadhus, they pay respect to them and serve them with prasad, because they have got no personal grudge. If they sincerely want to hear pure devotional conclusive thoughts, sadhus speak to them mildly, establish devotional thoughts, and show the defects of anti-devotional thoughts. But they remain silent when they find the person has come not to hear sincerely, but to show pedantic fits. Shuddha Bhaktas do not like idle talks. They have no desire to speak unnecessarily because they want to engage themselves fully for the service of God and His devotees. They know any moment they may leave this most perishable world. They are completely disinterested in non-eternal worldly affairs. Real aspirants utilize their time for their actual benefit, and they have no time to find faults and criticize others. Vaishnavas are Paramahamsa. A Vaishnav is a Paramahamsa. As a swan can extract milk from a mixture of water and milk, Vaishnavas can see good qualities in human beings. Human beings have both good and bad qualities in them. When good qualities predominate, he is called good, and when bad qualities predominate, he is called a bad person. Emancipated, realized souls, liberated, realized souls have only good qualities. They are the rarest in this world. The Vaishnava has got the capacity to see good qualities in all human beings. They have got no propensity to see bad qualities. They see bad qualities in themselves. When a votary sees his own bad qualities, he can rectify himself. I don't know what votary is. Votary is a person such as a monk or nun who has made vows of dedication to religious service. Okay. A devoted follower, adherent, or advocate of someone or something. Okay, so when a votary sees his own bad qualities, he can rectify himself. Vaishnavas have got no vanity or pride. They give respect to all, but do not aspire for getting respect from others. The root cause is false ego and false interests. The material world is finite, so if anybody gets some property, others are deprived of it. When human beings are taught that they are physical bodies, they all try to get requirements of the body and compete against one another for this. Actually, the real self is neither physical body nor material body. Being enveloped by the material energy, they wrongly misconceive. So the Indian rishis first tried for material property, and afterwards they found it would lead to extreme suffering. Actually, the requirement is complete bliss, who is God, Purna Sukh, absolute bliss or infinite bliss. Infinite Satchidananda is infinite bliss. If the attention of human beings is diverted towards infinite bliss, and if anybody gets this absolute bliss, others will not be deprived of it. According to differential calculus mathematics, infinity minus infinity is infinity. Infinite jivas can get infinite bliss. There is no possibility of clashing. When persons lost their interest for material acquisitions, they become indifferent to it, and clashing with others for such things cannot occur. As long as we shall remain in this world, we should be satisfied by getting minimum material possessions. Atma requires Atma for its sustenance, not Anatma. Anatma is foreign to it. If one attains the property of one whole world, he will have the desire to get another. The material world is actually devoid of genuine bliss. The material world is the shadow of the Supreme Lord, who is all existence, all knowledge, and all bliss. The material world is the outcome of Maya, which means not that. Similarly, the shadow of a tree has got no actual existence. Tasmad idam jagad ashesham asat sarupam swapnabham asta dishanam puradhuka dhukam eva nitya sukabhoda tanav anante mayata udad apiyat sad iva vapati. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-22. The entire universe is non-eternal, so it is dreamlike, illusory, transitory, not permanent, devoid of knowledge, inert, and extremely painful. But O Lord Krishna, you are all existence, all knowledge, and all bliss, and therefore infinite. The entire universe has been created and destroyed by your inconceivable power, yet it appears to be truth actually existing. The Supreme Lord is supreme in all respects. He is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and he is all bliss. By the grace of absolute bliss, we can get complete bliss. Grace descends to a surrendered soul. All desires of the devotee, will be fulfilled if he takes unconditional. All desires of the devotee will be fulfilled if he takes unconditional, total submission to the Supreme Lord. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, Manasa deho geho jo kichu mor arpiyo Arpinu tua pade Nanda Kishore. Sampare vipare jivane marane, Daya mama gela tua, O pada varane. Marobi rakhobi, jo icha tohar, Nitya dasa prati tua adhikar. O Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, you can kill me or protect me. You can do whatever you want. You have got every right over your eternal servant. Jai Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai. I really should start getting ready now for the program, but let's see. Are these really short? Okay, I'm just going to read the first memory here, but there's many memories, but yeah, I'm just doing the first. This is by Srila Bhakti Kinkar, Sripad Bhakti Kinkar Damadam Maharaj. This is excerpted and transcribed with slight edits from a Zoom meeting for singing his glories on the 96th Appearance Festival, April 2020. Let's see if I can make this text bigger. Okay. I observed how Guru Maharaj behaved with his Guru Varga. I could see this particularly when Srila Santa Goswami Maharaj would visit him in Mayapur, and also on with Srila Bhakti Sharan Trivikram Maharaj was in Kolkata Math. In 2004, when Srila Gurudev's Vyas Puja was organized in Kolkata, Srila Bhakti Sharan Trivikram Maharaj was present. Only one chair was put on top, and they wanted Gurudev to sit there, but he would not. We saw that Gurudev did not sit there. He made Sripad Trivikram Maharaj sit on a chair, and he just sat near his feet on the floor. He was not accepting the special seat or anything. He was not ready to accept any respect, even after being in such a highly exalted position. In front of his Guru Varga, especially in front of his godbrothers, he would always identify and present himself just as an ordinary disciple of most revered Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Dait Madhav Goswami Maharaj. Param Gurudev recognized his position by saying, I have many disciples, but the one who lives up to my heart's expectation is Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tīrtha Maharaj. Still, Gurudev himself was always identifying and presenting himself as an insignificant disciple of Param Gurudev all the time. In about 1999, I got Diksha in Vrindavan Math. When I went inside the Bhajan Kutir of Param Gurudev, where Srila Gurudev recited Diksha mantras, he told us we should give pranams to Param Gurudev. I tried to give pranam to Gurudev, but I could see on his face that he is hesitating and irritated about why we are doing this in front of Param Gurudev. Why are we offering pranams to him in front of Param Gurudev? Gurudev indicated to offer pranam here, motioning to Param Gurudev's picture, saying, He is your Gurudev. Gurudev was inspiring everyone to give pranam to Param Gurudev, while appearing in Param Gurudev's Bhajan Kutir simply as a pujari doing his service. While he was appearing in Param Gurudev's Bhajan Kutir simply as a pujari doing his service. That is all. When he recited the mantras, we could see his dedication and love for Param Gurudev. How special it was. Srila Bhakti Kinkar Damaraj. Let me make this smaller. Okay. Oh man, I should really stop now. Anyways, I'll read. I'm gonna read this on my own a little bit later. Sometime later today. But yeah, you can find it. Tīrtha Gosvāmī, Gosvāmī spelled with a W. tirthagoswami.blogspot.com. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jaya Bhakti Ballabha Śrīla Tīrtha Gosvāmī, Bhakti Ballabha Śrīla Tīrtha Gosvāmī. Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. How long is this one? His grave warnings against Vaishnava Aparad. No, I gotta stop. I'm gonna be late. Alright. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashtatara Shata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Viranta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja Shila Gurudeva ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashtatara Shata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Viranta Vaman Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashtatara Shata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashtatara Shata Shishmad Śrīla Bhakti Vijñāna Keshav Gosvāmī Maharaj ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashtatara Shata Shishmad Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Mahabhagavat Śrīla Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Śrīla Satchidananda Śrīla Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shishimad Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai. Tadiya Shubha Avirbhav Titi ki Jai. Śrīla Bhakti Vijñāna Bhāratī Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai. Śrīla Bhakti Dayit Madhav Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai. Śrīla Prabhupada Parashad Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dashrabhanath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Sarva Abhishtabhadata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Radhakund Shamakund ki Jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai. Shri Ramachandra ki Jai. Shri Ramachandra Avirbhav Titi ki Jai. Shri Ram Navami ki Jai. Titi Palankari Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Bharat Lakshman Shatrugna ki Jai. Shri Hanuman ki Jai. Shri Maharaj Dasharath ki Jai. Shri Kaushalya Kaikei and Sumitra Devi ki Jai. Shri Ayodhya Dham ki Jai. Ayodhya Puri ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shinitai Gaur Primanande Hari Hari Gaur. Vrindai Tulsidevai Priyai Keshava Krishna Bhakti Paradev. Oh my, I didn't say Sita Devi. Shri Sita Devi ki Jai. My God, that was a big mistake.
It's 9 o'clock.
Vrindai Tulsidevai Priyai Keshava Krishna Bhakti Paradevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams. I actually, the reason why I forgot Sita's name is because my Gurudev used to say we should never say Ram's name alone. We should always say Sitaram. And so I'm used to just saying Sitaram, not Ram, just Ramachandra by himself. Yeah. But I think Gurudev once chastised somebody. Somebody was singing like Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. And Gurudev said, no, you can't say Ram's name without Sita. And so then he started singing Sita Ram Jai Sita Ram, like that. All right, Jai Shri Radhe, thank you so much for reading with me, and I'll come back online in about 11 hours from now. And we'll read more Rama-kathā. Haribol.